without any further ado, let's give it up for Joanna.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's been so much fun to prepare for this and get ready to tell you all about what I've been doing. So I'm just going to go for it. This is the Weber family. They're the family that I stayed with. So my dad has known Derek for a long time. Derek came down from the Bible college to help my dad with youth pastoring, with his painting business. So they've known each other since before my mom and dad knew each other. So they've been in Africa for several years, I think at least 6 years they've been over there. And so last year, almost exactly a year ago, Lauren, his wife, texted my mom and said there was a possibility, there was an opening for someone to come over and help to teach preschool. And the first person Derek and Lauren thought of was me. So, to be honest, I had never really wanted to go to Africa before. But somehow, when my mom told me about this, I immediately wanted to go. And my mom had mentioned it to me several times before, and I was like, yeah, okay, probably not. But this time something was different, and I really think it was the Lord laying it on my heart to go. So, a couple months later, there I was leaving for Kenya. So my dad went over with me, and before I go, this is Lynn, the Weber's house helper, and she's the one who showed me how to cook the Kenyan meal. This picture of all of us is when my dad and I went over to her house and ate what we just ate. So that's what that is. But Derek over there, he is a physician's assistant, so he's working at the hospital there in Chogoria, doing medical things. And so while he's away doing that, Lauren is homeschooling their kids. They have 4 children. In the big picture, in the pink shirt, is Lucy, she's the oldest, and then Olive, the other girl you see there, Jack, and then Ivy is the little baby on Lauren's back. And she's about to turn 2. So Lauren homeschools those kids, mostly the older 2, and she ministers to the other moms and women in their community. So I went over mostly to help her with those kids. So, as I was saying before, I kind of lost my track. Dad and I stopped in London when we went over, so we got to go see some of the Christian sites in London, which was really cool. Got to go to the church that John Newton pastored, different things. It was really neat. Went to the British Museum, saw a lot of really neat biblical things that it just, it makes it come to life to see things like, oh, Esther saw this. That's what really got me. I thought that was so cool. We also went to visit our other church missionaries in Norwich, England, and that's the picture on the top right, is my dad. After the service, he got to teach on Sunday, and so there he is talking with John Brown, who's the pastor there. Then we made our way to Chogoria, Kenya. So you have Kenya and Eastern Africa. Chogoria on this map, Chogoria is the number 1, Nairobi is the number 2. So it's right at the base of Mount Kenya, so a lot of people will come through Chogoria to go climb Mount Kenya. So it's actually kind of a popular spot. I called this Chogoria because that's kind of their fun missionary title for it is Chogoria. So here on the top right, my dad is fixing a fence around one side of we called it my tiny house. So that little house there is where I lived, and then there's a little inside shot of it. I wanted to show this little video, just a little video of our compound. So this is the Weber's backyard. You can see there is their shamba in the left, which is their little garden where they have like beans and lettuce, different things. Their backyard, so this is the back of their house. Over here is my tiny house with the water tank next to it. It collects rainwater, and that's what we filter, and then use that rainwater for the filtered rainwater for our drinking water. And so now we're going to walk around. The kids, you can see we have like kind of a mini playground in their backyard, so a lot of times the kids will get to play back there. That's their bunny hutch. They had some bunnies. Unfortunately, they're up in the top part and you can't see them right now. So now we're going to speed walk around to the front of their house. There you see the front, that big blue thing is their shed/garage. So over you look, again, there's the front of their house. Yeah. You can go out and you're going to be able to see the back of my tiny house. There it is! Over on the right is the Horns' house. They're the people who Lauren does preschool with. So that's their house over there. That big gray building with the red roof, we call it the gray house. That's where we do preschool. And then this big playground area is just kind of the compound community playground. Everybody gets to play, so a lot of times the kids will go out there. So preschool, that's one of the main things I went over to do. In this picture we have me. On my lap is Abai, and then Jack, who is the Weber's little boy, Sophia, and Krista, who's the lady, the other mom, who's teaching preschool, and I helped her, and then her son Asa. So that was, for about half the time I was there, that was our preschool class. And then the other half, Sophia had to leave, and so another Kenyan girl came in. So we were there, we were teaching those. In the bottom right, it's one of my favorite pictures, we were doing D is for doctor. And so Krista's husband, Eli, came, and he was the doctor, so they're checking out his mouth and seeing what's in there. So I was helping them, we were going through the alphabet and really just doing some fun activities with the kids, helping them to get socialized with other people. It was a really neat thing for the Americans and the Kenyans to get to learn together. So that was a really cool thing. The other main thing I went over to do was music lessons. So I was teaching piano to each of the individual kids. I did Lucy and Olive, the Weber's two older girls, and then Krista Horn, her two older boys. I was teaching them each piano and or guitar. So individually I was able to do that, and then as a group we would come together once a week and I would teach them music theory. So for the last day we got to do some fun review games. That was so much fun. But they were a great group of kids. It was really neat to see each of them grow because I was there for 5 months. So to see them grow from the first time I taught, or they're just learning middle C, where is that? All the way until now, Lucy and Olive are doing a duet of Joy to the World. Wow. And it was just a really neat thing to see each of them grow, and to see, especially one of the Horn boys had a real love for music, and he just excelled. And so it was neat to be able to watch that develop and see their love of music and their enjoyment of getting to do that. So that was a really cool thing. The other awesome thing that I got to do was teach piano to these two African ladies. The one with me in the big picture, her name is actually Africa. She is, I would say, my best Kenyan friend. We had a really special relationship, and I actually got to buy a keyboard for her before I left, so that was a really cool thing. So that's actually that picture, is I had just given it to her. So it was really cool. The other lady I taught was Carol, and so I was able to teach the two of them piano, just show them how to play some worship songs so that they could then use it in church or wherever they went, to be able to lead others to the Lord and to be able to worship themselves in piano. So that was really, really cool. Africa, on a little side note, she and her husband Boaz is a medical doctor. He's training to become a medical doctor right now. And they are going to become missionaries with, World Harvest Mission. And they're going to go back to their home country of Burundi, which is the poorest country in Africa. So Boaz's story of coming out of that and actually being able to go to medical school, to even come to America to do a program at Harvard, it's an amazing story, and God is really working mightily through them. So for me to be able to have such a strong relationship with Africa and contribute in some small way to what God is doing in their lives was a huge privilege. And I am really, really excited to see what God does through them as they go in the next couple of years, go back to Burundi. It's going to be really an amazing story God is writing through them. So I was privileged to get to know them. Through knowing Africa, I was able to actually be part of the worship team at the church there. I was the first Mzungu white person at the church to be on the worship team. So it was very intimidating at first, but ended up being a really fun, sweet thing. So I'm going to show a video. My last Sunday there, they let me lead a song. So I'll show you that quick video. Just FYI, Africa is on the far left, and Boaz, her husband, is playing keyboard on the right. To get to do that my last Sunday there. The other thing I got to do was Swahili lessons. So I got to learn a little bit of Swahili. This is my teacher, Rose. She would come over every Tuesday and Thursday night and teach me from 6 to 8 about Swahili. So I thought, I know someone's going to ask me to say something. So I thought I should have something to say. So this is Psalm 23:1, which is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," in Swahili. Mwenyezi Mungu ni mchungaji wangu, sitapungukiwa na kitu. There it is. I also told my family there are some key Swahili phrases that they now need to know, because things will accidentally come out in Swahili. And so pole means I'm sorry, or just sorry. So they already know. I'll be like, pole, pole. They're like, Joanna, you said it in Swahili again. It just comes out. Habari means how are you? That's a very common greeting. And then the response to habari would be nzuri, which is good. So, little things. I got to go on safari and kiss a giraffe. We were all joking around. It was my first kiss. So yeah, we got to go to a couple different places. One of them was the giraffe center, where you could feed them, you could put it in your mouth and let them come take it from you. So that was really fun. We got to go to an elephant orphanage and see some baby elephants. Even we were able to touch one. I don't think it was super thrilled about that, but we did touch it nonetheless. And then also early on in my time there, actually, for my birthday, we got to go on safari and see some animals out in the wild. This is a blind rhino that is actually a conservancy where we went, so they were protecting some of the animals there, and this is one of them that they have kind of in an enclosure, a big enclosure, but to keep it safe. So we were able to pet and feed this rhino. It was a really fun and exciting experience. And then lastly, I just wanted to just talk a little bit about the special relationships that I got to build while I was there. Because that's really the thing I came away with the most, was those friendships that I was able to pour into. But really, that me being able to pour into them started here at the Christian Center with all of you. Because for 19 years, all of you have poured into me and given me so much, as far as, you've taught me about God, about His Word, shown me examples of how to live as a Christian, as a member of the body of Christ. And so then to be able to take that over there, I could then pour what you had poured into me, pour into them. And so as I worked with these girls, with Jack and Ivy, I was able to give them what you've given to me. So, I would be doing nighttime devotions with the girls sometimes, and they would go, so, Jesus is a man, right? But he's also God. And I'm like, I don't feel qualified to answer this question. But we would dialogue about it, and so it was neat because, I gained from all of you here, just this understanding of who God is and what he's done for us, but also an understanding of the responsibility that I had there with what God had given me. And he'd given me this opportunity to minister to these kids and to pour into them what I know, what I love, what I cherish. And so now the responsibility was mine to just live Jesus for them and be an example to them, just like all of you had been an example to me. So that was just such a cool opportunity. And then even with Beyond the Kids, which was a huge part of why I was there, but even going to Derek and Lauren, to Africa and Boaz, just being able, I felt like we poured into each other. So I would give to them, but then they were giving just as much back to me. And so there was just this really special relationship that we were able to build over this 5-month period. And so I really want to encourage all of you, wherever God has you, whoever he has placed in your life, you're there for a reason, they are there for a reason, and don't let those opportunities pass you by, because you never know. You pour into someone, you never know who they're going to pour into next, and who that person's going to pour into, and who you will end up indirectly impacting through how you are faithful with the people God has put in your life. So thank you so much for all of your support, your prayers. They mean so much, more than I can say. And thank you for coming tonight. It has been an honor and a blessing to get to share with you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Oh wait, but before I do, there's just this really cute video I wanted to show you. This is a VBS song. So if anybody has any questions, I would love to answer them.
Oh, I do. Did you learn a song in Swahili? The whole song?
Yes, it was a very short song, but yes, I did.
Can you sing it? No.
Yes, I can if you want me to. Okay. And then I'll see if I can translate it. Wajabu, wewe wajabu, wajabu, wewe wajabu, mfalme wa wafalme, mwenye enzi tunakuabudu. Wajabu, wewe wajabu is awesome, you are awesome. Mfalme wa wafalme is King of Kings. I always forget what the next part is, but tunakuabudu, we worship you.
That's beautiful.
There's in the middle, it's something about like you for something for I'm sorry, I always forget that middle part.
It's okay.
Joanna, have you,
That was
have you
beautiful.
thought about what country you'd like to visit next? Too soon?
I have not. Yeah, I have not really. I've always wanted to visit Israel. That would be more of a vacation thing than a ministry thing. But yeah, so if I was to go where I would love to go next, it would be Israel.
Were the church services, are the church services in English and Swahili or just English?
The one we went to was in English. They had, let's see, they had an English service, and then after that they had a Swahili service. But even in the English service, sometimes we would sing songs in Swahili, which is always exciting for me. Yes, Daddy.
What was your favorite thing you did in Kenya?
Good one.
My favorite thing I did. I was there for 5 months. That's a hard question. I think my favorite thing to do was spending time with my friend Africa.
Sweet.
Yes.
How many songs did you learn in Swahili?
Just the one. I can sing part of another one, but not really. Yes, Miss Susie.
What was the word you said for white person?
Mzungu. We hear that word a lot, unfortunately.
Joanna, when you would go for shopping, was there a shopping day, and where did you go to gather the foods, and things? Open air markets or stores? Or?
There was an open air market like directly outside the compound, and sometimes we would get our food there, but at other times there was a little. It was called a supermarket, but it was a really small store, but it had a lot of things from fresh fruits to toiletries or whatever you might need. So a lot of times we would go there. But whenever our house helper would go out to get food, she would always go to the open air markets and get much better things.
On your newsletters, I loved watching you when you would make those giant pizzas. So did you do all that from the start, like the pizza dough and everything? Huge pizzas on the table.
Yeah, so our house helper would always make the dough, but then we would put the sauce on and do all the rest of it. But yeah, so thankfully, in a way, it was thankfully we didn't have to do that every time because we had Friday night was pizza night.
So I was wondering, was there, besides what you cooked tonight for us, was there another favorite African-style dish that you loved?
Yeah, there were a couple.
Yeah.
Ndizi is Swahili for banana, and it was plantains. So not the sweet bananas, the savory or whatever you would call that. But it was those mashed up a lot like potatoes, and I think it even a lot of times had potatoes in it, but that was really good. And then the other thing is, I just lost it. Sukuma wiki was a really popular one, which is just shredded kale that's fried, and you might put some garlic tomatoes in it, but it's very salty too. They love salt.
Yeah.
It's like, salt. And so that was one of the, I'm thinking, ugali. That's what it was. So it's kind of like rice, but it's not rice though. But it's a big, you slice it like bread, and we'll just eat it. That's how we had it. My mom says that where she was, it was more of like a mush, but it just depends on how long you cook it. So there we would cook it all the way, and then plop it from the pot onto a plate and slice it up. And the kids loved that. Derek was like, "I'll take rice," but the rest of us loved it. So yeah, that was definitely a favorite.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
What was your favorite food there?
My favorite food there? I think my favorite food there was what we just ate. Oh, wait, no, chapati. It's everybody's favorite.
Which is the bread.
Yes, sorry, chapati is the bread tortilla things. Mr. Rick, did you?
What about postal service or deliveries and things?
Yeah, there was a post office right, within 5 minutes walking distance from where we were, and that's where we would send everything. It's pretty, it's very similar. It's pretty much just like the U.S. I would recommend though, if you're sending anything over there, don't write specifically everything that's on the package, because it just doesn't go. It just doesn't work as well. Because it'll get charged duty, and they just kind of, oh, this should be, we'll do 1,000 shillings for that, and well, let's see, maybe 500. It's not really. There's no real. Yeah. There's no real structure in that sense. So if you're gonna send something, you don't feel like you need to write the exact prices of everything, because that just can make it a little bit challenging on the other end. But yeah, it was just a normal postal service. Yeah.
That some of the mail wouldn't go out to the kids.
Oh yeah. While we were there, some of the mail had stopped because I sent a birthday letter to Sarah because I missed her birthday, and they still hadn't gotten in. It was well into August, and her birthday's the end of July. And I was like, what happened? And so we went down to the post office, and what happened is the Kenyan postal system had kind of run out of money, and so all of the mail made it to like Nairobi, but then they didn't have enough money to hire planes to take it over to the U.S., so it was just stuck there. So that's what happened to that. Yeah, Addie.
What was your favorite dessert there?
Well, a lot of times for dessert they would just have fruit, because Kenyans are not big on sugar. But there was a really good dish. It was kind of the consistency of donuts, but without the hole in it. So that was my favorite. That was called mandazi. Yeah. Cass.
How do you get there?
You fly on an airplane for a long time. Mr. George.
The beef that we had, they have beef the same way that we have beef, or is it some different?
No, it's very similar. A lot of times though, they'll cook it to where it's tougher. There's kind of a mindset that the longer you have to chew it, the better it is. So it's very chewy over there. So a lot of times when we would have this meal, we would just ask our house helper not to put meat in it, because well, for one, it was not super enjoyable, but probably kind of hard for the kids too to chew on that. So yes, Miss Rose.
So I know you were only gone for 5 months, but I'm wondering, when you came back, was there something that just really smacked you in the face of like a culture shock coming back into America?
I think there's an orderliness here and in a lot of Western countries that isn't there, which is to be expected. But I think that's the main thing, because I wasn't in an area that was overly poor, so I didn't really have as much of that sense of culture shock coming back, as I know a lot of people do who go over and are in really poor areas. But a lot of it was just like driving through traffic. Everyone obeys the signs of the road and all of that, and there aren't people walking across the freeway.
Wow.
Things like that. So it's more things like that for me than like, oh wow, we eat so much food and they don't have food over there, because honestly, when they serve you, they give you way more than what you guys just ate right now. So my main culture shock thing was even just rules of the road and that kind of thing. Yeah, Cass.
Did it take a couple days to get there?
Almost. It took about 24 hours to get back. But yeah, it was a long time.
Did you notice a difference in flavor and like their beef and chicken?
I didn't so much for myself, but I am not the most attuned to that kind of thing, unfortunately. So I probably wouldn't be the best person to ask. But I didn't notice a huge difference, no. Yeah.
So how tiny was your tiny house? How many square feet did you?
What was the footage?
8 by 20.
8 by 20.
And was it all just one room, or was it compartments?
Kind of. It was kind of compartments. So you walk in, and there's like a shower right here. You turn right, the shower's right here, and you've got like a little bathroom area, and then a divider wall, and you've got like a little kitchen, sink area, and then the bed was on the far wall. So it was a perfect size for one person. Like, it was perfect. I could not have asked for anything better. It was really
So
fun.
when you came home, did you like sleep in the closet or something?
No, I was very happy to be back in the room with my sister. Definitely. But I know when, who was it? Addie that asked what my favorite dessert was. It just made me think when Boaz came back to America, I came to Kenya right as he was getting back. He got back a few weeks after I got there. And he was telling us how Americans put sugar in everything. And they have beans a lot. Beans is a staple. And he's like, they put sugar in their beans. And it was so weird. And so it was interesting just to see his perspective on American things, because usually, we get our perspective on African things or our perspective on American things, but it was really neat to see a Kenyan perspective on America. So it was cool to hear his different things. He said he would walk up to a crosswalk and just stand there and watch cars stop for him. And he would just stand there and be like, and they would stop and he was like, no, it's good. He just like, because over there's no respect for pedestrians. So he would just walk up to the edge and just like stand there and watch if the car would stop and wait for him. So it was really interesting to see his perspective on things.
What kind of climate was it? Was it summer there or winter there when you were there?
I arrived in the wintertime. The seasons are reversed, so now it's going into the summertime. But they are right on the equator and at a fairly high elevation, so it doesn't change much. And it's actually a very nice, comfortable climate.
Were like any kind of rains or any?
I was there in the rainy season, and yes, it rained a lot.
Your home was well.
Yeah, there's one video I know was in the slideshow where out in front of my tiny house it was a pretty deep puddle.
A moat.
Yes, and it's kind of like that impasse part. You'd have to either walk really slowly to make sure it didn't get up on your shoes, or just wear boots to walk through. It was pretty interesting. Yes.
What is there for communications?
In what way?
Well, like phones, or how do they?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Pretty much there's normal phone service. So the only thing is I did have to change my American phone number when you have to like put in a Kenyan SIM card and all this stuff. So I had to change my phone number, but we were able to use an app called WhatsApp to text. So I was able to text my family, video call, phone call.
So there is some form of internet.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there is. You just purchase a data plan and yeah. So it's really, there's a lot as far as that is concerned. It's not like we were ever without the internet for weeks on end or anything like that. Oh, yes, okay. Hang on, Gracie. I will. So Boaz, he's a medical, I think it's I don't know what the term is. He's a medical doctor there at the hospital. And so sometimes they'll get really overloaded with patients, and there's a line of people waiting, and they get kind of grumpy and they start murmuring, and the murmuring gets louder and louder, and the doctors can hear it in their offices, and so the nurses will come in and be like, oh, you still have a patient? Okay. Kind of give them a look like that patient needs to move, and the doctors are like, we know, we can hear them, like, we know. There's a lot going on. So Boaz obviously knows what's going on. So just as a quick backstory, remember habari means how are you? It's just the common like hello in Kenya. So he walks out of his office, just bursts out like, hello everyone! If you have come to see the doctor, you have seen me. Habari, 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 habari. If you want me to see you, you can wait. And he just goes back into his office. And that fixed the problem. Everyone was totally happy and fine after that. Yes, Gracie.
Did you see wildlife when you were there?
Yeah, I saw a lot of chameleons. In fact, one of the chameleons, we were like, why is she just sitting there on that branch? She was really big. And so for like a whole day, she didn't move. And the next day, we went out there and found like 30 baby chameleons, like this big. She had given live birth to chameleons. And so now all in our neighbor's yard, the yards, in that tree, there's just chameleons everywhere. So many baby chameleons, it was amazing. So that was the main form of wildlife that we saw while we were there, was chameleons and geckos. Yeah.
Any poisonous animals?
No, not none that we found. We actually did find one of those a little snake, but it was harmless. Although all of the canyons, it was the Weber family and the Horn family, the other American homeschooling family. They would catch all the critters, but the canyons just don't do that. They're afraid of them, and so especially when they had the snake, it was like, you need to kill that. Like, you cannot release that. It didn't matter if it was poisonous or not. It's like, it had to be. So eventually I think the snake ended up dying just of being handled probably too much. But it was like they could not release it into the wild because there's just a mental, like, they couldn't. It's a snake. That thing needs to go. So it was interesting.
What kind of birds? I mean, I'm sure they have their own native birds.
Yeah, I don't know about many of the smaller ones. There were some really pretty small birds. What are they called? They were hornbills. They were kind of like crows, about that size, but sometimes they would have the crest on them, and so those were the big birds, and that's about the only one that I know of by name, unfortunately. Anybody else? All right, thank you so much for coming. If anybody wants to talk to me more, I am more than happy to be talking about it. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your support, financially, but mostly in prayer. It means so much. So thank you so much, and God bless you. Have a great night.